Before I start, on substance, the most important thing I can do is not to forget to introduce my wife, who is here with us, Kathy. and my daughter Jill is actually here also. Anyone who does this job knows that it would be impossible without the support of your family, your spouse, and they sacrifice so much to do this kind of work. I just want to take a few minutes today to talk about what I see in the challenges we have, but also the hope for the future that we have in this country. We obviously have great challenges. I would ask you, how many of you today, if you raise your hand, believe that you have it better than your parents did, more opportunities than what your parents did? How many of you would say that? How many of you here believe that if we stay on the course we are today, that your children and grandchildren will have more opportunities than you did? It is a sea change in attitude in this country, that our future may not be as bright as it once was, or what we thought it should be for the next generations. And that's really what this is all about, is talking about what we do today and the effect that will have on our kids and our grandchildren. We are $16 trillion in debt. This year, once again, we're going to add over $1.2 trillion onto that. It simply is not sustainable. This is being financed at all-time historic low interest rates. If in fact we were at about $250 billion of money going to places like China. If in fact we were at historic normal interest rates, it would be close to $800 billion a year. That's every dime we pay in taxes to the federal government would go simply to service the interest. At that point, we're over the cliff. We have got to stand up, have people in Washington who will talk to each other, who will actually address the big issues of the day. Whatever happens in a positive way for this country, for the next generations, is going to have to be done on both sides of the aisle. There's no big change ever happened that wasn't bipartisan. But we've got to start talking to each other. We've got to understand that it is about the future of the country. Now, the campaigns will show differences in all this, but in the end, we've got to have leadership in Washington that will actually care more about the future and the American people than they do about their political future. We have some immediate challenges coming up. When you look at, and it's probably going to get pushed off till after the election, but the Budget Control Act, or the sequestration, that will come into effect on January 2nd, that will cut $1.2 trillion from the budget over the next 10 years, half of which will go to cuts in defense, half will go to cuts in other domestic discretionary programs, like the National Institute of the Health, their education programs. A lot of those things, the impact on the military is going to be devastating. And we've got a lot of veterans here today, and I thank you for your service, but if that goes into effect, we will have the smallest ground force since 1940. We'll have the smallest Navy since before World War I. We'll have the smallest Air Force in the history of the Air Force. Those things can't happen. And we've got to make sure that we do the right thing after the election, get the sequestration. But what we're seeing, geez, they brought the helicopters for me too? The most important thing we can do today is get our economy going. And we've got challenges, certainly long-term, with Social Security, with Medicare. We've got to make sure that those programs are there for the future. But the biggest problem we have today is the high unemployment, 8.3%. It's not sustainable. What we need to do to get the economy growing is to give certainty. I come out of a small business family background where you understand that you invest, you hire people, you want to grow your business. Today, people aren't doing that. Does anybody know what your tax rates are going to be on January 1st this next year? You don't. You don't know whether capital gains are going up, dividends, your marginal tax rates. Does anybody understand the regulatory burden that small businesses have today and what that's doing to stop hindering, and it hinders growth? We've got to have certainty in the economy, and we can, in fact, I think, have a huge resurgence as far as investment and hiring in this country if, in fact, there was that certainty out there. Hopefully this will be done before the end of the year. I think it's very unfortunate. I heard Senator from state of Washington, who is head of the Democrat campaign committee in the Senate, say, let's put it off till after the first of the year. That will have more political advantage at that point. In the meantime, the country goes over a fiscal cliff. We can't let that happen. Let me just say that I have the great honor of serving as chairman of a subcommittee on appropriations in transportation, housing, urban development. That bill is about $120 billion, half of which is mandatory spending, half of which is discretionary spending. Just to give a comparison, Governor, the state of Iowa's budget's about $6 billion. My one of the 12 bills that I control is 20 times larger than the budget. I think a true example of how we can work together to get things done is how we operate on my subcommittee. I have a guy named John Alver, who is a representative from the state of Massachusetts, who becomes very offended if you say that he is not the most liberal member from Massachusetts. And with Barney Frank and everybody else in that delegation, that's pretty hard to do. But we work together. We had the largest percentage cut in spending of any bill of the 12 appropriation bills. We work together. We worked together. We didn't agree on everything, obviously. It would need both of us. But we talked. We communicated. We brought the bill through subcommittee, through full committee, to the floor of the House of Representatives. We had 3 days of open amendments and open rule debates, amendments, all the way through. But we ended up passing that bill in a very bipartisan, big vote. That's the way you get things done. What we've got to have today in Washington for Iowa at this critical time is effective leadership in Washington. And the Register has written stories about, who can actually get things done in Washington for Iowans. And I'm very proud to be at the top of the list with the Iowa delegation. And I think that is the way you do it, though, is to understand that it's not my way or the highway, that we work together for the goodness and betterment of this country. Let me just close by saying I've had the honor to represent Iowans, I think in 36 counties now, over my tenure in Congress. It's a tremendous honor. It's a tremendous responsibility. I want to continue to serve the state of Iowa. More importantly, I want to continue to work for the future of our kids and grandchildren. I just had a grandson born January 4th this year. When I first held that baby, I couldn't help but think that he is $50,000 in debt as his share of the national debt. It is simply wrong. It's immoral what we're doing to those kids, limiting their opportunity for the future. We can have a great future in this country. We've got to pull together. America's greatness is ahead of us if in fact we do that. So with that, I would ask for your vote this November in this new 3rd district, which is, I love. Kathy and I, if you're not aware, when we first got married back 37 years ago, we lived in Clive for a year. Now we're back in Clive again. We currently haven't gotten very far in life, honey, but anyway. But this new 3rd district is great. Looking forward to the service, and again, I would ask for your vote. So thank you very, very much, folks.